Sacagawea, Journey into the West by Jessica Gunderson, illustrated by Cynthia Martin and Barbara Schultz. Chapter 1. Capture. When Sacagawea was a little girl in the late 1700s, she lived with her Shoshone family along the 𝕁𝕒𝕒𝕒 River in present-day Idaho. At this time, her name was Grass Maiden. Like most Shoshone girls, she and her sister helped their mother gather roots, berries, and nuts.
I've dug up 5 camas roots. Excellent. We'll roast them tonight. We'll dry these others for the winter. Remember the camas plant, little one, and you'll never go hungry. Come, girls, we need to start cooking supper. Snake! Stay calm. Don't be afraid. Don't cry, little one. Life is full of dangers, but you can overcome them if you keep your head.
Every summer, the Shoshone traveled to the 3 forks of the Missouri River to hunt buffalo. The hunts were very dangerous. The 3 Forks was in 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒 territory. Sometimes 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒 warriors attacked Shoshone camps.
Little sister, have you heard about the 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒 rifles? Warriors point them at a bird, and the bird falls dead.
What happens if they point rifles at us, 𝕁𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒?
We know the woods. We can hide there.
When the Shoshone reached the 3 Forks, they set up camp.
What was that? 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒, run!
Sacagawea dashed for the woods where her brother told her to hide.
Help!
But there were too many 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒, and she was separated from her family. No one could help her.
Where are you taking me?
I do not understand your Shoshone words, slave. From now on, you will speak 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒.
They live in houses of dirt?
I brought a Shoshone girl to work for us.
Good. I have plenty of work for her.
What should we call her?
She is small and thin, like a bird. We'll call her Bird Woman, Sacagawea.
Will I ever hear my real name again?
Sacagawea spent the next several years learning the 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒 way of life.
How will I know when to pick the squash? My people do not farm.
We are your people now. You will learn, just as you are learning our language. One night, a fur trader named Toussaint Charbonneau visited the village as he often did. This time, he was looking for a wife. Sacagawea was 16. Back then, she was old enough to be married.
I need a wife to care for me on my travels. How much for your slave?
Sacagawea. She is very valuable to us, but perhaps we can come to an arrangement.
At that time, many marriages were arranged. As a slave, Sacagawea had fewer choices than most. Mr. Charbonneau is your husband now. You must go with him.
We will return in fall with plenty of furs to trade.
Chapter 2. The Journey Westward. Sacagawea and Charbonneau did return in fall. In November 1804, a group of strangers also came to the 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒 villages. Led by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, these men were on an exploring mission for the United States.
It's the men I've heard other fur traders talking about. They are from the cities far east of here. They're trying to find a water route all the way west to the Pacific Ocean.
Why?
Ships could then bring trade goods all the way to the ocean and beyond to other lands.
Lewis and Clark set up camp along the riverbank. They called it Fort Mandan, for the Mandan people who lived near the 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒.
We look forward to spending the winter near your village. We want to learn about the Mandan ways.
Captain Lewis, you and Captain Clark are good trading partners, but tribes farther west may not be so friendly. Your group of men may be seen as a war party.
Thank you for the advice. Can you also tell us about the Western Mountains?
The mountains are steep and wide. You'll need horses to cross them.
Where could we find horses?
The Shoshone might sell them to you.
We need to find someone who speaks Shoshone.
Charbonneau has offered translation services. His wife speaks Shoshone. She could translate to 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒, Charbonneau to French, and then I could translate to English. We need a Shoshone speaker to help us trade for horses.
And with a woman along, other tribes will know we're not a war party.
Tell him he's hired, but only if he brings his wife.
On April 7, 1805, the expedition left the winter fort and continued up the Missouri River. Charbonneau, Sacagawea, and their 2-month-old son, Jean-Baptiste, joined the group. When she wasn't walking along shore, Sacagawea often rowed in the 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒. It was the biggest boat and carried important supplies. One day, high winds tipped the 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒 nearly on its side.
Haul in the sail!
Stay calm, little one. We need to keep our heads. The supplies!
We will name this tributary Bird Woman's River after Sacagawea. I still have my medicines and compass because of her quick action.
I never would have thought a river could be named after a slave.
The expedition journeyed on. The Rocky Mountains loomed ever closer, but the expedition still hadn't made contact with the Shoshone. In late summer, Sacagawea finally saw something she recognized.
The Shoshone remove bark from trees. They were here. We are nearing the 3 Forks. This is the very spot where I was kidnapped from my people. No tears. The past cannot change.
After a few days, they finally found who they had been looking for.
They are Shoshone.
Sacagawea and the other interpreters went with Clark and Lewis to talk with the tribe's chief.
Chief 𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒, these men wish to speak with you.
Brother?
Grass Maiden, I thought you were gone forever. I wish more of our family could see you, but they have passed on.
To see any family after all these years is a gift.
Who are these men?
They are explorers traveling to the ocean. They need horses to cross the mountains.
I must speak with the rest of the tribe.
In exchange for weapons, the Shoshone sent horses and guides to help the expedition cross the mountains.
Goodbye, little sister.
Goodbye. Perhaps we'll meet again on another journey.
Even with the horses, crossing the Rocky Mountains was difficult. Food was scarce and the snow was deep. No matter how hard it got, the smile of a child could delight the crew. Clark was especially fond of Jean-Baptiste, nicknamed Pomp.
Pomp, my little dancing boy.
In October 1805, they reached the Columbia River. They traded some of their horses for canoes with the Nez Perce. As they continued on their travels, tribes gathered on the riverbanks to watch Lewis and Clark go by. Many tribes had never seen a white man before.
Look, there is a woman and child. They are not a war party.
It's good that Sacagawea is with us.
A woman with a party of men is a token of peace.
On November 7, 1805, the expedition reached what they believed was the Pacific Ocean.
Great joy. We are in view of the ocean.
Really, it was the wide mouth of the Columbia River. The ocean was still 20 miles away. Lewis and Clark soon realized their mistake.
We will not be able to reach the ocean by boat. The waves are too rough. We should spend the winter here.
We'll take a vote. Where should we build the fort?
A place where there is plenty of potatoes.
Everyone in the group got to vote. At this time in U.S. history, women couldn't vote in elections, but here, Sacagawea's vote counted like everyone else's. The winter fort was built on the south side of the Columbia River, and potato roots did grow there. It was named Fort 𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒 in honor of a nearby native tribe. Winter at Fort 𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒 was wet and dreary. One day, a few men decided to make a trip to the ocean to view a beached whale. Unlike many others, Sacagawea hadn't yet been to the ocean.
I have traveled a long way to see the great waters, and now that a monstrous fish is to be seen, it is very hard that I am not permitted to see either.
I'll ask Clark, but no promises.
Yes, you can come. I didn't realize you felt that way.
Sacagawea's remarkable journey finally brought her to the Pacific Ocean.
Look, little one, look at all the water.
Chapter 3. The Return Trip. In the spring of 1806, the expedition began its return trip. They encountered a group of Walla Walla Indians. Once again, Sacagawea's knowledge of Shoshone was useful. She was able to talk to a Shoshone woman who was with the Walla Walla. The red-haired captain offers his healing skills in return for food and horses.
Agreed. Our people have been very sick.
Hold still. This won't hurt.
Clark's medicine also helped Jean-Baptiste.
You've got a high fever, little Pomp. This salve should help.
The explorers spent several weeks with the Walla Walla. Sacagawea gathered camas roots, like she had when she was a child. The explorers' all-meat diet was making them ill. Sacagawea's roots made them feel better. Finally, everyone was well enough to continue. In July, the expedition decided to split so they could explore more territory. Sacagawea traveled with Clark on the southern route.
The camas field where I saw that snake. I know of a gap in the mountains that will make our travels much easier.
Clark listened to Sacagawea and saved precious time. Today, this gap is called Bozeman Pass. The expedition's two groups reunited and traveled together down the Missouri River. On August 14, 1806, they reached the 𝕊𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒 villages where Sacagawea and her family had joined the expedition. "The little one has grown so big,"
I saw so many things. At the ocean there was a big fish, larger than you could ever imagine.
We would like to continue on with the expedition.
Thank you, but we cannot pay you any longer. Translation services are no longer needed. But I may be of service to you. I have grown very fond of Pomp. I would very much like to adopt him and raise him as my own. I could provide a good home and fine schools.
You want to take our child?
Clark is an important man. It is an honor for him to ask.
Fur trading is a hard life. Perhaps he would be better off with Clark, but he is too young to leave his mother now.
In a year, if you are still willing, we will bring him to you.
Sacagawea traveled 4,356 miles with the expedition. By the time Lewis and Clark returned to their starting point of St. Louis, they had traveled nearly 8,000 miles. Chapter 4. A Lasting Legend. 3 years passed before any word arrived from the explorers.
William Clark has written us a letter.
What does he say?
I once more tell you, if you will bring your son Baptiste to me, I will educate him and treat him as my own child. And do not forget the promise which I made to you.
He also says the government is giving me 320 acres of land to farm. We'll leave right away. I don't want to miss this chance.
In the fall of 1809, Jean-Baptiste and Sacagawea went with Charbonneau to St. Louis.
So many people, so many buildings.
After 2 years, Charbonneau grew tired of farming.
Fur trading was better than farming. I'm selling this land and we're returning west.
What about Jean-Baptiste?
Let's see if Clark will keep his promise.
Don't worry. I'll do my best to care for him as well as you have. He will have many opportunities here.
You can learn much from him, little one. Clark is a good man.
Charbonneau and Sacagawea returned west. Charbonneau went back to fur trading. In 1812, a clerk at Fort Manuel, South Dakota, recorded that Charbonneau's wife had died. Charbonneau had other wives, but most historians agree that it was Sacagawea. Another story says Sacagawea left Charbonneau and later found her Shoshone people in Wyoming, where she lived to be 100. No one knows which story is true. Sacagawea's courage and resourcefulness on the Lewis and Clark expedition has been honored many times. More monuments, places, and items have been dedicated to her than to any other American woman.